Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is looking for chemistry, but maybe settling for less. But before we begin, we just want to...
pottery. I was thinking about different classes, you know?
Yeah, settling for gym class. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
You know what, Sam? I'm going to go a little off script here with a little tangent.
Okay.
Because I was just thinking there are two different types of people in the world. People who loved gym class and people who did not.
Sure.
I don't think you have to tell me. I don't think you have to tell me which one you were.
Oh, yeah. No, I loved gym class. Absolutely.
You're lying to me.
Being bullied in the locker room, having people throw balls at my head. Absolutely. That was the greatest time ever. I did love, rollerblading, bowling. That was a fun,
oh my God.
a fun
Where
one.
did you go to school? Like the Saved by the Bell school?
I don't know. What you never had you didn't have
Bayside, is that what it's called?
Little, Bayside
No, we
High.
did square dancing.
We also did square dancing.
And flag football.
Well, I don't think we did flag football. Thank God. Oh God. We did a golf unit once. That was fun.
Oh my God. No. All right. This is all to say. Sam and I are not experts. We were not gym people.
No, clearly not.
And we are not professionals, so please take our advice as you see fit. We are only here to offer our humble musings to help you shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love. I also want to say, I wish I could go to an adult gym class now with all cool people. Because I think we lose the desire to play, to be silly, and be physical in that way. And it gets smothered by things like competitiveness and, body insecurity and afraid of looking stupid and afraid of failing. So I wish I could just go play soccer or flag football with a bunch of people who didn't give a shit.
That's the problem, though. You can sign up for leagues
positive.
And stuff, and it's this is a non-competitive league, but then there's always that one person who's like,
do you remember when I was in adult kickball and I was like, we are playing a child's game. You're grown men playing a game meant for almost toddlers, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You're taking this a little too seriously.
No offense to any professional kickball players out there. I know that there is skill involved, so that's not...
Yes, there absolutely is. Okay. Today's check-in topic is inspired by me eating my own words. I think a couple months ago we checked in about, or I don't know, it was in a letter, dreaming about your ex. Or dreaming about your situationship from a past or whatever, and how I don't know. I think this is a perfect example of Sam and I can sit over here on our high horse, which is a funny phrase if you think about it.
It is. Why is our horse so high?
And it's so dumb. And
it's did we give it ketamine or something? What? Why is it so high? I don't understand.
Is it in heels?
Yeah. What other definitions of high could we make jokes about?
I'm sure it honestly goes back to class systems and oppression.
Oh, for sure, absolutely, 100%. As do all of our phrases.
Yes. Anyway,
if they're not racist, they're classist.
Oh God. Anyway, so I think that it's so funny that we give advice from our high horse, and we are telling people it's totally normal to dream about your exes. It's just a part of life. You should just wake up and let it roll off of you. I
don't think I've ever said that, but that's fine.
Anyway, I
just let it roll off of you.
I've been dreaming this past week. I've had multiple nights in a row where I've been dreaming about a couple people from my past. I think it's because I've been doing a lot of planning and anticipating for this upcoming Minneapolis reading. If you don't know, June 18th at Ice House, I'm going to be doing a book release show. Sam and Spencer will be there. You should come. Mm-hmm. But like I'm returning to a city and to like an industry in that city where I have a lot of history. And man, these dreams are prevalent and pervasive, and they're all up in my face and in my genitals. Like I just...
Oh, are they sex dreams?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they're sex dreams.
Okay, you left this detail out in the prep for this episode. I didn't know they were sex dreams. That changes everything. You want to fuck this person.
It doesn't change anything.
You want to divorce your wife and fuck this person. That's what your dream is telling you.
Well, there's sex dreams and there are other dreams. Like it's everything. You know what I mean? I'll be like walking in my old high school, like covered in vines, and it's flooded. And then all of a sudden I'm
just like your vagina.
Yeah. Anyway, they're not all sex dreams. I'm just saying, like, what dream isn't a sex dream? You know what I mean? Anyway, so I have been dreaming a lot about these people in my past, and I wake up and like the first thing I am is like angry and annoyed, and frustrated that my brain keeps going there. And I thought of our Just Break Up listeners because, like I said earlier, we sit over here on our high-heeled horse being like, it's totally normal, you know, it's just gonna happen. And then but I wake up in my bed after these dreams and I'm pissed and I'm annoyed and I feel violated, you know, I like that they entered my subconscious. So absolutely. I guess I just wanted to laugh at myself, remind you all that our advice is no good, and talk about what does it mean when we dream about people from our past, and we, you know, or dream about people that we still want, or people that we, I don't know why, you know, people that we have unfinished business with, quote unquote. I don't know. That doesn't describe the people from my past. I'm just thinking in general. I was like, what unfinished business do you have? No. Also, like, remember that our advice is not to not have feelings about the things that happen to us. It's funny how much I say that. I'm like everybody else. I'm like, your feelings are valid. And then to myself, I'm like, sit down and stop it. Stop feeling this thing, right? So like of course you're gonna wake up after a dream about your ex, a sex dream about your ex, where you're like, you're gonna have feelings about it. Like, of course it is. The thing is to like, okay, so then how do we support and like be okay with the fact that those feelings are coming up, and remind us that those feelings aren't necessarily telling us something that is more important than what we know to be true, right? So it's like, yeah, of course I'm angry, and of course I've got like, especially like in the process of waking up, when it's like, where are you? What's happening? Your like feelings are like so close to the surface that like, of course you're going to be like, well, what's happening? Am I supposed to divorce my partner? God, like, is that what's going on? Right. Where I've had dreams like where it's like, no, I've had dreams where I like cheat on Peter, and I wake up and I'm like, what does this mean? And it's like, no, I had a dream. Like, but it doesn't mean that I don't have that initial response of being like, oh my God, does this mean that I'm unhappy? Like, I feel so guilty. Like, what's happening? And then I'm like, okay, yep, absolutely makes sense that you're feeling that way. And also, you do not want to cheat on your partner. That is not what your dream is telling you, right? Like, you are, no, you're good. You're happy. Remember, here are all the things that are really great about your relationship and why you wouldn't want to do this, right? So it's like, how do we come back to the place where we can like parent ourselves a little bit and like tell ourselves, but first we have to deal with a like dysregulated child that's just waking up and being like, I had a bad dream, right? You can't just be like, God, that's get so over it. We have to be like, oh yeah, absolutely. That dream sounds really scary or really weird or whatever it is. Yeah. I think that, you know, I don't wake up and feel and like question the life that I'm that I'm living, or like the relationship I'm in. You know, what made me want to really talk about it is that I feel it keeps me in the past. That's what I feel like it does, is that like it brings the past to the forefront of my brain, my stupid subconscious, you know, and makes me entertain or feel or explore feelings that I, in waking hours, feel totally at peace with. And I think I resonate even more after the past couple of weeks of dreams with our listeners that write to us and say, that they feel pangs of longing and confusion and frustration that their brain keeps playing out this relationship that they want just to be done, or they want to be different. I think that's what is so annoying about the dreams that I have with some people from my ex, is that like always in my dreams, they finally reciprocated what they didn't reciprocate in real life, or they're finally interested in me, or say something or communicate in a way that they never did in real life, and so part of the dream is so enjoyable because I finally get to receive that affirmation or security or love or affection that I was starved for so long. And that's fucking annoying too, because I want to be like, I don't want to feel good at the thought of your affirmation anymore. I don't want to feel good at the thought of your touch anymore because I've moved on from this. But man, that's just what dreams do.
For sure. Absolutely.
They fuck with you.
And also like, what is the problem with being like, of course, if this person said this to me in this way,
Real
it
life.
would like feel good, right?
Yeah,
Like where it'd
that's
be like,
so true.
Yeah, it would probably, if this person that you had like an unrequited thing for however many years was like, actually, I think that I want to be with you.
I would literally murder him.
Oh, absolutely.
I would be like, how dare you? How dare you? You know what I would do? I would say, 1 second. Can you please hold that thought 1 second? And I'd pull out my phone. I'd call you and I'd be like, we need to bury a body. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Be like, great. I'll fly out to Albany real quick. It will be totally not in any way suspicious that this is happening.
Anyway, you're totally right. Honestly, I have no profound thoughts other than like commiserating and maybe pointing out that like I'm madly in love with my wife still. Mm-hmm. We had like a very lovely month. I'm feeling so good about our relationship. This is just proof that like you can be so happy and content and at peace in your day-to-day life. Literally says the woman who was just threatening murder. But you can be at peace in your day-to-day life and really have your dreams betray that peace. And that's no sign that you're like not evolved or not beyond them or whatever. Or
Absolutely.
is it? Because I'm like, why the fuck does your brain...
Yeah, I don't know.
Why does my brain want to hear these things from these people still?
For sure. I just had a conversation about this with my therapist because I was having weird dreams coming up to like the anniversary of my dad's birthday, I think. May have been his death, but I was like just having the strangest, most bizarre dreams about... I have recurring dreams that my dad is still alive and that he's been in hiding and that like no one cares, that he's like, he just comes back into our lives. Nothing has changed. And I'm like, he's been hiding this whole time. We thought that he was dead for the last 4 years. Are we just going to like sit here and forgive him? Like sometimes he comes back with like a whole new family. Right, it's very strange. Anyway, and I was talking to my therapist about this and I was like, so I don't know what this means. Is it like that? Like I'm trying to like differentiate my own grief from my, like the people around me's grief. And he was like, yeah, I mean, that's true because you know that that's true, right? Like you have said that to me out loud before. Yeah. And he was like, and like the idea that dreams are somehow part of your subconscious, like we have no proof of that. It is also very possible that our brains are just telling us stories at night, right? Or our brains are just like randomly firing synapses about things and like
and of course
reuse old
they're
stories.
Working with thoughts that we've had before, of course.
Absolutely.
They're replaying.
And he was like, so I totally get, he's like very much not like a psychoanalysis person. He's very much like a cognitive behavioral therapist. So it's much more like, what are we going to do with this information rather than like, we need to figure out exactly where it came from and like whatever it is. So he was just like, and jury's out on the dream thing about whether or not they mean anything whatsoever. So like, he was like, it's important to just really think about like how you are responding and like what is coming up for you based on this dream rather than thinking like, is there some sort of unhealed part of myself? Because it's like,
right,
it's unhealed. Like, like, of course there's like still grief there, right? And same thing with like this dreams that you're having about your ex unrequited person.
Yeah.
It's like, of course that stuff is still in there. That wound isn't going anywhere. But does it mean that you're somehow like need to spend like more time healing it? It's kind of like, I don't know. Like, probably not. More just like, how are you reacting and responding when that kind of stuff happens? And like, what tools do you have to say like, I don't want to be with this person. And the fact that I dreamt about him doesn't mean that I secretly want to be with him. It just means that I had a dream about him. Right. Like,
and I think also my fucking dreams pale in comparison to your dead dad coming back from life in hiding. Like, are you kidding me? I fucking should have never fucking spoken a single word in my entire life. I'm over here like, I was in a flooded high school having sex with this person.
I was in a tent in a baseball field and it was this person. I love it.
Oh, God.
It's just like different vibes, you know?
It's just a different vibe.
And I wake up and I'm like, wait a minute, is my dead dad still alive?
Exactly. And I'm over here like, oh, man, I still want him to love me. Oh, God, I hate myself.
Okay, well, you don't need to hate yourself because of this. Like, that is really a lot.
This is exactly the check-in topic. I didn't know that I wanted, but I needed. You know what
absolutely,
I mean?
Absolutely. You were like, are we going to be able to talk about this? And I was like, yes, we're going to be fine.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me complain about my stupid dreams.
No, it's fine. It's great. I love it. My dreams are just like a little bit worse than yours. So just keep that in mind.
I am humbled, and I'll let you answer the rest of that episode.
That's not why I told that story.
It was a phenomenal story. It was a perfect reminder to myself, like, that these dreams, they don't mean anything.
I know. All right. They don't have to tell us anything.
Okay, let's get into today's letter. You can just do the rest of the talking for the rest of the episode. All right, today's letter is from JP, whose pronouns are he, him, who is writing to us from chemistry class. Hi, friends. Before I start to spiral a bit, I just wanted to say how much your podcast has meant to me over the years. I've learned new, beautiful things and challenged myself because of you both. Now for said spiral. That's me in the check. That's me in the check-in topic.
Absolutely.
I, he, him, 25, am in a new-ish 3-month relationship with my partner, they, them, 26. It's been unlike my past relationships that have included codependency, love bombing, and those epic highs and lows we hate to love. Ain't that the truth? It's the second time I've said that today. That is exciting to me. My partner is thoughtful, ambitious, smart as hell, easygoing, consistent, and gives me the space and grace to be me. We feel like two autonomous and separate people sharing a relationship, which is cool and novel for me, honestly. But at the same time, they don't excite me. They're not as outgoing as me, and I often feel like I need to initiate conversations. We laugh together sometimes, but not like I do with others. There are a lot of quiet moments and some other smaller things, like how much we care about our jobs. I do not. They love theirs. I don't think any of these perceived incompatibilities are deal breakers, but I can't shake the feeling that we are not right. I struggle with OCD and often find myself obsessing about these questions. Are we meant to be? Do I really like them? Shouldn't this feel easy? And then checking constantly internally or online for reassurance. All the while, the anxiety is shadowing our time together. I feel hyper aware of how I interact. I overanalyze them and feel guilty for even having these thoughts. But without something concrete to point to, I fear I'd be giving up on this because of a shapeless anxiety and because it doesn't feel like those turbulent but passionate relationships of the past. I keep questioning how true ideas of love, like chemistry and spark and settling and you just know when it's right, are. Like, what do they mean or feel like? Are butterflies just a con? I know I'm a bit of a love addict. I have had a tendency to not trust my gut in the past relationships and see potential where there isn't. But if there's one question I'm really getting at, it's how do I trust myself enough to decipher anxiety from intuition? And is this the feeling of a stable love without anxiety or a mismatch without chemistry? Thanks, love, JP.
All right, JP, thank you so much for writing this letter to us. We really appreciate this. And I'm sorry that you're in this like quandary. I'm like literally picturing you at like 2 a.m. like Googling, am I in love? Right? Like
I'm picturing you like Carrie Bradshaw, like smoking out of a window in a beautiful pink chiffon nightie, you know,
absolutely.
Being like, and then I wondered, is this love? You know?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. You're just like typing away on your old like colorful MacBook and just like asking these important questions.
And if it's not abundantly clear, I love that look for you, but I don't love that you are struggling in this way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And I think they're asking some really important questions, not just for yourself, but for all of us who are trying to really navigate the difference between like love bombing, like going too fast, too soon, just like being in love with the idea of love versus like the other side of the pendulum, which is like kind of settling for the first person who like shows any interest in you, right?
Yes,
and
totally.
being willing to put up with people who you're not compatible with or are maybe not showing you the time and interest and love that you need, right? And sort of how do we find a balance between those two things, knowing that either extreme is probably not great for us. And this feeling of like, is that intuition or is just that my anxiety is like so real.
So relatable.
Sierra and I were talking about this extensively before we hit record about all the ways in which our anxiety is like really telling us things that feel true that maybe aren't. So we're going to get into it. We're going to offer you some advice, some perspective. We're going to sit with you in the ambiguity of all of this, but we will be back in just a moment.
All right, my darling. Again, thank you so much for writing and trusting us with this letter. I want to first dive into what Sam hinted at earlier about intuition. I think my entire life, but particularly maybe the last 5-10 years, I have felt inherently flawed as a person in that I felt like I don't have as strong of an intuition as other people. And I really struggled with that. And an ex called me out on it. And I've always like talked about
who's this ex? Oh, gross. Well, don't trust a thing that she says.
No, I don't. I absolutely not. You could bleep that, Spencer. I absolutely don't. I'm saying I've moved through this journey of feeling like this was something lacking in me. And because I always felt like I should be able to do what I see other people do, which is like make strong and bold decisions and like move in the direction of their hearts and know confidently what that is. But the older I get, the more I'm realizing, what trusting your intuition actually looks like. It's not that your intuition is always right. It's that you are able, it's not a threshold that you cross that you all of a sudden like that inner voice always like knows what's up and knows what to do and knows what the right answer is for you. That inner voice is not always going to protect you or make the right decision. Trusting your intuition is about being malleable and able to correct course once you realize that you try something and you think, nope, this is not for me. It's honestly, I think trusting your intuition is way more creative and malleable than we think of it as. I think about words like intuition as being like black and white, yes and no, take the job, don't take the job,
Yep.
Or like break up, don't break up. But for me, it's like, how can I creatively respond to this lived experience? How can I respond compassionately? How can I try something and then try something else if this isn't working,
For sure.
And I think about in terms of relationships, we feel a lot of pressure because we see it in black and white. This relationship has to work or it doesn't have to work. But it's not that simple. Yes, you're either going to stay together or break up, but it's like, you're not doomed to be relationshipless if you break up. You're not doomed to have an unhappy, settling feeling for the rest of your life if you stay together. Does that all make sense?
No, absolutely it does. And I think that's really interesting to think about, even as we were having this conversation where it's like, it feels like my intuition is actually just telling me to like run away from people all the time. And instead being like, oh no, that's actually my anxiety. And what my intuition is telling me is that like, there is safety with other people, right? My intuition is telling me you need other people to be able to process through things and when to ask for help, and that being in community is actually more helpful than running away from people. So I also feel like I tell myself that I'm like not listening to my intuition,
right?
But I think that actually I am listening to it more than I give myself credit for, because my intuition maybe sometimes feels to me like kind of the rational person in the room, when my anxiety is the one that's maybe the loudest and like the one that wants me most pressingly to listen to.
Yeah.
So maybe that is part of it, is like, it's addressing the idea, or like holding in our hearts the idea of like, we are capable of making point in time decisions about what's working for us and not working for us, and that we don't have to decide everything explicitly yes or no in order to be listening to a part of us that is trying to sort of, that knows who we are and is sensing what needs to happen based on what's coming in, right? Like, it's not the idea of either be all in with this person or break up with this person immediately is possibly part of your intuition. Absolutely. Like, let's not discredit that, but often is probably more of like anxiety, like, like I either need to run away or I need to be fully loved. Right. And intuition is more like, let's see how things go. Right. Like, I have the confidence in myself to decide now or later what is working, what's not working, what feels good, what's not feeling good. And the ability to be resilient in the face of good or bad decisions that I might make, or decisions that lead to outcomes I was anticipating or not anticipating, right? Like kind of that faith in the idea that like we can handle things as they come to us. Like that, I think, is what feeling your intuition or trusting your intuition feels like, more than like, oh, I'll know immediately if I need to exit this relationship.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to long-windedly say, of like, I don't think your intuition is going to be like, you got to get the fuck out of this relationship. Your intuition is like, yeah, maybe it is. But your intuition is saying like, I'm feeling a longing here. I'm feeling like I want to explore elsewhere. Or I don't know. And to the point you said, like, you were like, it's more about saying, let's see how this goes. And that's in and out of the relationship. You could say, let's see how breaking up goes, And we were joking before we hit record that like, historically, we feel like our intuition has been like largely wrong. But to Sam's point, like, I'm not really sure that's what our intuition was. Our intuition, it was our anxiety or our codependency or whatever was the loudest voice in the room. I think the biggest thing that I want to bring to the conversation about like, what is intuition and what does it look like to trust it, is to move away from the expectation that you will always know what to do, that your intuition will always know what's right or wrong. Like I said earlier, there's not going to be like a threshold of healing or perfection that you cross in which you will know what the right or wrong thing is to do all the time, in which your inner voice will always like be really confident. Nobody has that. Even if they walk around the world looking at like they do, even if they move through their life choices with a confidence that you feel like you don't necessarily have, we've kind of like made up that concept of intuition. Or like, no, there is intuition, but we've made it out to be this much more binary, louder thing that you kind of like have access to or don't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that like your intuition could be always right. I don't agree with that. Sometimes I have intuition where I'm like, oh, I'm I have to stay with this person because of X, Y, and Z. And it turns out that was incorrect. I also want to say, you talk about being a love addict, and you did sort of start unpacking these ideas of love, like chemistry and spark and settling, etc. I think that those are all great things to explore. And I'll start by, let's talk about what love is. If you say that you're a love addict, I'm not really sure you've been addicted to love historically based on how you described your past relationships. Mm-hmm. Maybe you've been addicted to the passion, to the attachment, to the lust, to the relief you feel post-conflict when everything's okay again. But here's here's your quarterly reminder that like love isn't necessarily something we feel right away, or if it is, then it's like the placeholder word for love. Mm-hmm. I do feel like we have like these different levels of the word love, and it's not a hierarchy. It's just different words in different practice. Mm-hmm. I can love somebody that I just met, or I can love a play that I saw and be like, oh my God, I loved it. It was so cool. Mm-hmm. Or wow, I think I'm falling in love with you. This is so fun. Our first handful of dates and, having sex and the chemistry and that is released from all of those things. I'm loving it. I'm loving you. Mm-hmm. But that's a different love than being with your partner for 5 or 10 years and loving them in the more daily, passive way that love appears in those quieter, long-term relationships.
For sure.
I think we mistake the two often.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that we've been told a narrative around like love needs to make you feel the most, right? That's how you know that you're in love or that you're with the right person, as if like you're just constantly feeling it's like heightened, right? And that isn't actually true for lots of people. And it isn't necessarily true for some sustainable relationships, right? It might be true for some, for sure, but like there's a whole lot of other ways of approaching love that can help us sort of focus on like, how do we do this in a way that isn't going to burn us out so quickly? And it sounds like you're really trying to like think about how to do that. And you're noticing a pattern for yourself of really being kind of addicted to those high highs and low lows, really finding places where you're like, I keep going all in on people and it's like really not working out for me because it's not sustainable. And I'm making up stories about this person and I'm falling in love with an idea of them and in actual practice, it doesn't work. But I also want to say that like, that doesn't mean that the pendulum has to swing all the way in the other direction, right? Like it's not either you're addicted to love bombing and you're like passionate and you're feeling all the butterflies and everything's like electric, or you're kind of like, well, this person is a person, so I have to be okay with it. And if I, like I just have to accept everything about this and be like, everything needs to be totally stable 100% of the time, right? Like there's an in-between here, right? Where you can look at this current relationship that you're in and saying like, this isn't sparking for me. We don't seem compatible in some pretty important ways. Like they're a cool person and I like spending time with them, but like, I'm just not really feeling the romantic vibes here, and still not be in this place of like, I need the romance. I need the high highs. I need this thing that doesn't exist, right? Like you can exist in the middle place here where you're looking at this and saying like, I don't need 100% sparks and joy. And like, we want to tear each other's clothes off and we spend 17 days together and we sleep in the grocery store with each other, right? Like,
excuse me.
Yeah, right. I knew that would be your dream.
Sierra's perfect first date.
Yeah, exactly. You can be like, I recognize that those things are not necessary for a relationship, that those things can often be misleading for me as somebody who's kind of like addicted to that stuff. And still this person in front of me that I'm dating isn't somebody that I'm that into, right? Like part of what is helpful about doing this like self-awareness work isn't that we choose between one extreme option or the other, but instead so that we can notice our patterns and say, yep, I know that's a pattern for me. And also, this thing is true too. This person that I'm dating doesn't really excite me in a way that I want to be excited, right?
Yes.
I'm not looking for, I know that I have a tendency to overemphasize things that are harmful for me or that aren't sustainable for me. But that doesn't mean that I don't also want a little bit of romance, right? It doesn't mean that I also don't want my partner to initiate conversation with me more often, right? Like, and that I think is what trusting your intuition looks like. That is the place where we can say, oh, the thing that I want is reasonable. The thing that I want or the thing that I'm looking for is okay for me to want. It's not either side of these massive extremes, but it's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere that's reasonable, feasible, something that's going to work, something that feels sustainable for me. And that's kind of what it feels like. So I want to just say that again, like, I don't know if you should break up with this person or not. I'm not in your body. I don't know what's going on with you. We've got, 4 paragraphs or whatever of text here, but I want to give you permission to do it because you're not happy, right? Because you're not getting what you need out of this relationship. And that's okay. That's okay to want, even if this person is like very smart and fun and easygoing and all of those things that you already said.
And I want to say too, just because we're nearing the end, like, I think that what you listed sounds like a reasonable reason to be like, this person might be wonderful and they're not my person. I don't want to be with someone who, I can't have like easy, meaningful conversation with. I don't want to be with someone that feels like I have to, I don't want to be with someone that I feel like I have to work to be with, not the normal work that I feel like is expected in relationships. Like, man, you're going to have conflicts. You're going to have to, shift your priorities. There's going to be opportunity costs. There's going to be hard, vulnerable conversations. There's going to be mismatched sexual appetites. I don't know. There's all of this work that you have to put in a relationship. But if you're talking about like, it's just hard to be in a relationship with this person because you're overanalyzing, because you have to start all the conversations because you're second guessing yourself all the time. That sounds like work that's not worth it to me. So maybe if that sways you one way or another, like Sam said, we don't know this relationship based off of the 4 paragraphs you sent us, but I'll say that to give you permission, that seems like enough for me. And then the other thing I want to say in closing, and this might be like a hot topic piece of advice, but you don't have to be sure to break up. You don't have to be 100%. This is coming from my holy intuition, and I know you're not right for me. I'm not sure we're ever going to get there. We're always going to have second guesses. We're always going to have doubts. Most of the time, we're going to feel at least a little of the residual love or attraction or enjoyment we felt when we got with them. We are with them for a reason, So I guess I just want to relinquish you of the expectation that you're going to be 100% sure that pendulum swing is going to swing all the way to, yep, get out, right?
For sure. Or, yep, this is 100% the relationship for me.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that there's an opportunity here for you to, even if you are interested in continuing this relationship, like, you can talk about some of this stuff, right? Like, part of what intuition is also asking for what we need in relationship, right? And saying like, hey, I'm really noticing that I'm the one that initiates most conversations as we're talking. And this makes me feel like it's kind of like my job, or like it's making me feel less connected to you. So like,
it's a great way to
are there ways that we could, like, I'm looking for somebody who can like initiate conversation more often with me. Like, is that something that you'd be willing to try with me? Right. We are all capable also of like changing. We're all capable of shifting as we need to. So want to also say that like, there's an opportunity here for you to practice what it looks like, instead of sort of stewing on these things on your own, to enter into partnership with somebody and try and figure this out together, and see if this is something that's compatible for both of you, or if it's something that's not working in either direction, right? Like, there's an opportunity here for much more sort of like care and nuance than just like, are we made for each other? Because like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to answer that question for you. And I don't think you're ever going to be able to answer that question for you. But more of, how is this working? And if it's not working, are we capable able/willing/interested in shifting and adapting towards each other to make this more compatible for both of us. So
exactly.
All this to say our advice is break up or don't if you don't want to.
Your intuition is right, but also probably wrong. And maybe not there. Anyway.
Welcome to year 5 of Just Break Up. Let's say that.
Anniversary is coming up. Episode 300 is happening right around our anniversary. Did you know that?
I love it. I love it so much.
All right, y'all. My darling, I'm so glad you wrote us. Thank you so much for trusting us with this letter. We love you so much.
Thank you so much for writing. We love you.
We hope this helps.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you're interested in more content from us, or if you're interested in some ad-free content, you can always support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode, as well as access to all of our episodes without ads. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DM, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcasts and his music. And remember, you will rarely in life feel 100% confident in a decision. But the good thing is we can always change course after we've moved forward. You will always be learning new things from new perspective as you move through the world with the knowledge and experience that you have at that time. And if all else fails,
just break up.